Andrew Heaton, thank you for coming.
Pleasure to be back.
This is a magic button here. If you push this button, then immediately around the world, forever and always, you will stop the progress and development of artificial intelligence in its tracks. Are you going to push that button and stop AI?
Absolutely not.
Oh, interesting.
No, I'm not going to stop AI.
Why would you allow the progression of AI to continue to be developed in all of its ripple effects across society and the world?
Forgive me if we retread ground. Since you and I record this every 3 weeks and I'm drinking, I never remember what I've previously said.
Yes.
I brought a guy on my podcast, The Political Orphanage, a few months ago that made a distinction between upwingers and downwingers. Not left-wing, right-wing.
Okay.
Different, and don't try to fit in.
Yeah.
It's not a proxy for left-wing or right-wing.
Okay.
It's a different paradigm.
I can tell I'm going to like this conversation.
Right. So downwingers,
Yes.
I want you to picture touch grass, fern gully. We've gotten too far away from the earth
Yes.
and from the essence of human beings. We've got too far away with technology.
Connective experiences that don't happen on a screen.
Yes.
Yeah.
Upwingers are rockets, colonize the moon. Let's have new genes that make your eyes purple if you want them. Things like that, right? I'm fairly confident I'm in the upwinger camp.
Okay.
I'm very much a techno optimist.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of the problems that we've come up with, we can tech our way out of. With AI, Wallace, he talked about
He's
this.
a downwinger.
He's a downwinger. Classic downwinger.
It's a
Wallace,
downwinger move.
all he wants to do is watch Fern Gully. With AI, I think there's a very big opportunity cost of lives lost if it's not pursued. I think that there's all sorts of gains that can be made medically with AI, and I think 5 years from now, the amount of stuff that's going to change, like every kid that has a smartphone is going to have a tutor on their phone, like an inexhaustible tutor that is designed for them. I think that there's really, really good gains there, and we can get into the downside stuff, but so far I'm not bothered.
Okay, so the question is, would you stop it in its tracks right now? So the progress that we've made with current AI, like that we can keep. But the progression of this, to keep going with it evolving and improving, this is something that you're very comfortable with.
I think we're on the cusp of it, and I want to see how high this hill goes. Yeah.
Oh, man.
So where are you at?
Downwinger, if we're going to put a label on it. Absolutely, yeah.
Right. So would you push the button?
Yeah.
You would right now.
So
you pause it.
We
just got ChatGPT.
Yes, we usually wait until the conversation, then we decide. But I don't think you're going to change my mind on this. I would absolutely stop AI in its tracks right now because I think the potential upsides, while interesting and fun, given human nature and its role in the development of artificial intelligence, I don't see how this ends up being a good net benefit for humanity. And I'll give you a specific reason why. It's not because I'm a Luddite. Although
you do want to have the internet go back to 1992 and then stop. Some would argue a Luddite.
But still an internet. It's there.
Yeah. You want GeoCities level technological development across this great country.
GeoCities, that was amazing for its time. The main problem I have with AI is, unlike the development of the internet, which was basically, hey, here's this big frontier. If you're a giant billion-dollar corporation or you're just some nerd in his basement, even playing ground. AI is being developed by a small number of people in Silicon Valley who have a very specific worldview. And there is this sense of inevitability to where AI is coming. This is happening whether you like it or not. And the generation of this intelligence is being formed from a very, very specific perspective. It's not like the internet where it's this collective effort to bring into being this network of information and knowledge. It's, hey, there is this ever-growing intelligence of increasing capability and knowledge and effectively power that a very small number of people will get to control and influence.
So let's clarify something. The confines of the button in our chat today is everywhere in the world it is stopped, correct?
Yep, stop.
Okay, so that does take care of one problem that I've got. When people talk about trying to restrict AI development in the United States,
the rest of the world's going to develop it, of course.
Exactly. Between Silicon Valley or Beijing, I would much, much, much rather have Silicon Valley developing AI than Beijing. Beijing has very specific goals that it wants. That's not germane to our conversation because the button would pause
across
for
the
them
board,
and everybody else as well, right? Here's where I'm at with the AI thing. There's lots of very intelligent people who are smarter than me that are very worried about AI.
Mm-hmm.
Seems to be a fair amount of people in Silicon Valley who are like buying bunkers in New Zealand because they're so worried about AI and other things, right? Yeah. There's lots of people worried about it. The conversations I frequently have with people go like this. I'm not that worried about AI. Well, you should be. Mm-hmm. Okay. Is there anything I can do to stop it? No.
See, that's part of the conversation.
Well, then I don't think I should worry about it.
That's part of the conversation of inevitability, because if everybody, jumped up and said, "Hold on, let's really seriously regulate this." Granted, there's going to be other countries like, "That's adorable. We're going to keep, developing this. It's going to vastly be more powerful and overwhelming to your AI in a few short years," which is for real. But it's not inevitable. Like, there are things we can do to force the issue. I think one of the biggest problems I have with AI, it's that very sense of like, just shrug my shoulders and whatever's going to happen, it's going to happen. Because I see so many people very comfortable with the idea of handing over the keys to their life, of responsibility, of decision making, of things that you really should, be in charge of informing yourself and making wise decisions. So often people want to abdicate that responsibility to somebody else so they can have an easier life, a more comfortable life. And given the direction the AI is going, I see it so close and so easy for people to go, well, what am I going to do with my life? And what am I going to do with my day? Well, what does the screen tell me to do? And they're going to basically just be beholden to this artificial intelligence, this thing that sounds smart, and it's collecting this information, but it's going to be this best practice for humanity, this prescription. And we were going to lose what makes human beings special by abdicating our innate sense of uniqueness and what makes us different and special. And some people think like, well, we're just an animal. It's like, no, we're not an animal. We're an animal in the sense that, is an amoeba an animal and is a dolphin an animal? Yeah, but they're way different on the grand scheme of things. So handing over the keys to our collective future to an artificial intelligence that has been collectively designed by a very small number of people with a very specific worldview and agenda, I find very, very uncomfortable.
So let's drill down more and get into the specific things that you're worried about, because there might be speed bumps that I should be aware of. Maybe you'll convert me. It sounds like I'm slightly more agnostic to this than you are. You sound very, very dedicated to this.
Not that I can do anything.
What I normally hear from people, but let's start with what you've got. Yeah. You were worried that as AI becomes better, we are going to cede our decision-making abilities and the tough parts of being human to it.
Yeah. And then, yes, absolutely. And I think if we get a little bit glib, artificial intelligence, it's not artificial wisdom. And I think wisdom is something that, man, if you're not human, if you're just developed through codes and, collected experiences in an algorithm, I think there are things that on paper, by the numbers, would be an intelligent move, but in terms of a wise move.
Wait, hold on. But this is so abstract, though.
Yes.
Let's bring it down a little bit in terms of what this would look like. So I am worried that AI is going to relieve human beings of autonomy, wisdom, and making decisions for themselves. Okay.
I can say that a different way.
Okay, yeah, because my first impulse is if there's just a tool that people have access to, but they don't have to use it.
I am concerned that AI, given the influence of our day-to-day lives and decision-making, where we get to go, what we get to do, it will, in effect, turn us more, we will become more like machines than we will make AI more like us. I think if we are just following, supposedly this is the career path for me, and this is the relationship for me, and this is the thing that I'm going to find the most entertaining. This is what I should do with my free time. This is where I should go on vacation, and this is the right pet for me. At a certain point, we are human beings, but we're just following this prescription that has been handed to us from an intelligence that was designed by a small group of people that don't necessarily have our best interest in mind. They have a product in mind that they can monetize and use to basically build their wealth and influence.
Would if I'm following you correctly, would it be fair to say this is kind of like when you and I were kids growing up? Yeah. If we wanted to get from point A to point B, we had to ask directions, or we had to get out a map. Or like tail end of high school, you could go to MapQuest, you could print the map out But if you got off the map, so help you God, you were lost. There was nothing you could do. You couldn't react in real time, right? Now, I use Google Maps on my phone. I am far less mapful in my mindset. My orienteering skills have declined. My ability to remember how to just find things. If you go north on I-35, so is it that kind of writ large where we're gonna lose skills as a result of offloading these skills to AI, or are you worried that there's going to be a purpose app on your phone where you click it and it goes, the purpose is to work for my company? Like, is it something like that? Is it like more of a corporatist?
It's both. Absolutely both.
Okay.
Yeah, it is.
Okay. So the former one, I'm not too worried. Like, I do think there's something to be said for like atrophy of skills and like neural abilities and things like that. Like, I think, but I don't have any children. My friends that have kids tell me that there's declining rates of motor control with kids because they're used to like playing with blocks and things, and the ones that are playing with iPads aren't doing that. And so there's actually some neurological things. That's fair. And then, like the ability, I think you should probably be able to do math in your head, even if you have a cell phone with you the rest of your life, right? Like there are certain things.
So basically, losing abilities is annoying, but also, and this is annoyingly abstract, I get it, but losing humanity.
Okay. Because this is where I camp all the time.
Yeah.
Really enjoy camping.
Yeah.
I've got a camper that I tow behind my car.
Right.
I no longer have to set up a tent in the rain. And some people go, well, you're not even camping. And I go, well, I go camping to be out in nature and enjoy it. I don't go for the drudgery.
Right.
The camper has removed the drudgery and allows me to enjoy the nature.
That's a bit of a straw man. We're not talking about drudgery. We're talking about basically ceding control and authority to an artificial construct.
You're not ceding control or authority to it. Like,
yet. This is why I'm saying stop getting distracted now. So in 5 years, people will be like, oh, well, what does AI say? And even like if these governments with their pesky lying politicians, it's like, well, what do we put in its place? Well, how about the all-knowing AI who can take into account all of the factors, all of the variables, all of the data, know where all of the resources are around the world, and how do we best allocate those resources in the most peaceful and prosperous way? And then we go through a few decades of that. Well, this AI is great.
Well,
this AI is beautiful. This AI is wonderful. And all of a sudden, the AI decides, like, you know what? There's a group over here, group of people, kind of pesky, kind of problematic, and they are kind of making a little bit of a destabilized situation that isn't really great for all of us. I think we needed to delete that group. And everybody's like, well, it's AI. They helped us out this far. And all of a sudden, things that would have once been thought horrific, now it's like, well, that's what the computer thing says. And it's always smart, and it keeps me comfortable, and it keeps me fed. And I think we lose humanity along the way.
I don't think we have to make that decision, though. So like prime example here. Yeah. I did an episode on nuclear war a couple of years ago, and while it's terrifying, I have to say the chain of command within the American nuclear arsenal is very human-centric and requires lots and lots of things, right? Like there's, right now, as we're speaking, as you're watching, there's multiple silos across America. There's 2 guys in it. They're handcuffed to either end of it, far enough away that if I shoot that guy, I somehow get a gun in there, and I shoot that guy, I can't reach over and pull it. And even then, if both guys talk into it and decide to pull the lever, they can't do it unless they get the code, which goes from the Secretary of Defense after being authorized from the president. So even though the president could be a nutball, there's no automatic algorithm, and nor should there ever be. That should always be a human thing, right? If we were to take it to like the knowledge level, I am glad there are think tanks in Washington, D.C. There are think tanks that I like, that I'd be like, that's very smart. These are very smart people. I don't have to take their advice. Like with AI, like AI is going to spit out weird stuff. So if you said like, let's deal with crime, AI would go, oh, that's easy. Just lock up all 18-year-old boys until they're 26. And like all crime, like 99% of crime will disappear. Right. Also specific races based on social, like, and we'd be like, whoa, whoa, right? But we have the ability to go, look, we're not going to lock up 19-year-old kids. We're not going to go full Minority Report. We don't have to do any of this. All we're doing is developing better and better chessboards. It's just a series of switches. It's ones and zeros. We're getting really, really good ones and zeros to where we can give them very complex things to do, very complex equations. But at no point do we go, well, they're not going to do math for us anymore unless we give them command of the agricultural sector.
All right, here's the thing. I think I am probably thinking further down generationally than you are right now.
Perhaps.
I think generational creep is what I'm most uncomfortable with. This idea of like, well, AI told me that I can't go do that today, so I'm not going to do it. That's absurd. But the more that we have integrated deeply into our lives this technology that knows so much stuff, and it sounds very human and very compelling, and it can draw from all these resources, the more that we rely on it to do our thinking for us, all of a sudden we start to assume that that thinking is correct and it's wise and it's appropriate. And to the extent that that thinking isn't taking into account the intrinsic value of a human life, for example, and we depend on it for the rest of our life. Maybe, my kids, they grow up, they've depended on it most of their life. And then back in the day when they didn't have AI, those primitive cavemen, they had to work like most days of the week, and they didn't have things that they could just think a thought and have all the information appear in their head.
Well, I'll add to your point, the people that I know that are full-blown communists that identify as a capital C communist, when I say something like, well, it didn't work in the Soviet Union or Laos or Vietnam or Cambodia, and I'll list the 27 different iterations that this has tried and failed and resulted in dead bodies. They'll go, but now computers, right? So like, I agree with you to a point. The idea that the technology is not going to ever be able to replace human moral judgment. But at the same time, I don't think that we have to do it. I don't think we have to cede control over that. And on top of that, let's say we get 3 generations from now where ChatGPT is so common that kids go, who should I date? And ChatGPT, do we swear on this? I can't remember if we swear on this. Sure. Okay. I have great faith in the innate go fuck yourself of human beings. I think that's particularly in our country, that's very inbuilt of what do all the experts say? I think you're all wrong, and I'm going to keep doing this thing because fuck you. I'm making I think that is. I have that much faith in humanity to say that if all the AI says you should do this thing,
your upwinging position is very dependent on basically the impudence of mankind. But in the country, in the States, basically people saying, "Nah, I see what you're saying. Go fuck yourself."
Well,
that's basically the safeguard
to some extent. But let's make another delineation.
You and Skynet.
We're talking about artificial intelligence. We're not talking about general intelligence, which is a theoretical construct that's never been proven. We're not talking about a machine that has opinions and thinks. We're talking about a super intelligent, a complex language model. We're talking about that, right? We're talking about switches, right? I'm not worried about that because it's just better and better tools.
So we've danced around a little bit. The fact that this artificial intelligence is being formed by a very small group of people. It's not like the internet where, if you can find a way to, suffer through a dial-up modem and then poke around and do some stuff, you're in it. You're on the World Wide Web. This is a cabal of people that are creating this thing that have, goals in mind. They want influence, they want power, they want money, they want a product that they can put up on the world. I think even just that alone, forget the generational ripple effects of, the people becoming more and more comfortable with ceding control to an artificial construct over time, over generations. The fact that this thing is being birthed by a small collective with a very specific worldview, that is red flags across the board already. And this is something that you're comfortable with.
I think it's going to have some issues there, right? So one of the big ones is, how is information going to be relayed? Because I think it's fascinating that in the last 3 years, Google has sort of been upended. Google, when ChatGPT debuted about a year ago from when we're recording this to the date, really, Google issued a red alert where they went, "Oh no, this is an existential threat." And I'm a dedicated Google guy. I've got Gmail. I'd totally let Google pick a wife for me. I would absolutely cede all the things you're worried about. But I haven't been doing a good job either. And ChatGPT came out, and I now use ChatGPT, right? So it's possible that Google's going to be overturned by that. Where it does give me pause is if everybody's getting their information from this one thing, the people that control the constructs of it. But that to me is the same debate we're currently having with Google, with Facebook, with all these other things. I don't think that that's changing what's already occurring. We're just using better and better tools within that qualitative framework. That is a debate we're having right now, that the Republicans keep hauling the tech companies in front of Congress and go, "You guys are trying to suppress our algorithms," and they go, "We would never do that." And they debate back and forth, but we're already having that debate. And so to say, well, we're going to stop it because well, this is the crux for me of why I don't buy into this doomerism.
Yeah.
You've not brought up these things, but these are what I'm usually arguing against. One, I think that it will increase inequality. I agree. It will probably increase inequality, but I don't care about inequality. I care about poverty. And like, if I could push this button and give everybody in the world twice as much wealth.
Inequality to me is, it's a bit of a wash, but go ahead.
Yeah, I like, if you were to double the wealth of everyone on the planet, everybody would be less poor and inequality would rise.
Yes.
Mathematically, right? So like, I don't care. Most people do. I don't. I care about poverty, right? So the people that are like, what if inequality rises? I'm like, if the inequality rises because everybody's getting wealthier but at different rates, I'm fine with that. So that one, I'm out on that one. The other bit that I hear happen is like, well, it's just too big and it's moving too fast. You've not said this, but this is what I usually encounter with people is it's really big and it's happening fast and that makes me uncomfortable. Well, that's just a feeling. That's just an abstract feeling that's not grounded in anything. So unless you can give me concrete stuff, which you're doing, you've focused on this very humanistic loci of we are going to cede control of our lives to a genie.
You know what I think a big part of it is? Just taking a step back from this topic a little bit, but directionally we're still talking about it. The anecdotal evidence, the experience that I've seen time and time again of the people that I see being the most alive and connected and present and purposeful and fulfilled, they're living a life that just feel like, oh yeah, you're doing that human thing really well. Those are the people that have figured out how to take control over their own life and lean less and less into the trappings of social media and technology and the dopamine drip of all of the streaming platforms. And so you're talking to a content creator, man. Like, I know the game, okay? You know the game. The
people can't quit watching me. I'm so charismatic.
But the people that are just locked into that, most of their waking hours, they're pulling out the screen and watching the stuff. They look and sound sad and they're struggling and they're having a hard time. Yeah. Just a very simplistic, mile high view of that situation is like, hold on. People and unbridled, unfettered access to tech. In whatever speed it's moving is fine, but even just the current iteration of tech, those people seem to be having a bad time.
It's really funny. I brought you up yesterday. A friend of mine, Chris Moody, he's a journalist, former CNN guy. He's now a professor of journalism at Appalachia State University or some iteration of that.
Yeah.
He's in North Carolina, and he and his wife just had a baby, a year old at the time of recording. And as a new father, he felt like he was on his phone too much and it was removing him from reality. Yeah. And his wife and he talked about it. They live on a mountain in a rural community about 15 minutes from the university, but they have no cell phone reception. So fine. They got all of their cell phone stuff through Wi-Fi. Yeah. And they ended up calling the internet company and saying, we would like to install a landline and we would like you to cancel our internet service. Great conversation. I brought you up, by the way, because I was like, my dippy.
I do know a Luddite.
My dippy friend Rex would deprive everyone. But the thing with
I would help everyone.
Chris though is
they would hate me. I'd probably be murdered within the week. But yes,
I think that's great that Chris has done that.
Yeah.
And I don't with my business model. I don't know that I could quite affect that, but I'd like to play around with it. But I don't think that it's the technology that's the problem. I think it's the primacy of the technology. I think that what we ought to be doing is figuring out how to make technology work for us for the benefit of our lives. And the problem is when the tool becomes all-consuming.
Okay.
But it's about priorities. It's not about banishing it to the hinterlands.
So kind of exactly my point.
But you're wanting to banish it. I'm saying don't use a hammer for everything, and you're saying throw the hammer in a volcano.
You're kind of making my point for you. You're kind of making my point for me.
Damn it, I shouldn't have drank so fast.
No, it's like the seating, the control, like the purpose. AI, it's being made with a purpose that is not, again, the thing I always come back to is this taking into account our best interest? No, it's not. It's a product. So people become more influential and rich and wealthy. It's like AI, I see this being something that people rely on more and more. It's so useful. It's so helpful. I use this thing. I was like, holy shit. This is just, I'm so capable, so
I'm
impressive.
Sure,
this is so impressive. And for that to be yet again a product made that's not trying to help me have a better life, not trying to help you have a better life, it's trying to make a small group of people a tremendous amount of money get influence, get power. This is another thing. This is like the same problems you have with Tinder. Tinder doesn't give a shit about your love life, man. AI doesn't give a shit about whether or not we're getting real knowledge or real information or living a life that's going to be fulfilling for us. Yeah, how is that different in the development of this technology versus the other?
Because you're making a compulsory decision for everybody versus a voluntary decision for you.
This is my other point. Because this is the reason why I'm so surprised that you, with your libertarian leanings, are comfortable with AI, running unfettered, unrestrained. Do you not see the intensity, the depth, the frequency with which people are going to be forming their worldview, their opinion, the thing that libertarians see as sacrosanct, their ability to independently make a decision? Or do you not think AI is going to influence
Oh
that
my God.
across the board?
Can you imagine if people lived in their own echo chambers and silo their opinions?
Again,
what a hellscape.
My point, I'm saying this makes the echo chamber even more confined and powerful.
Okay, so two things. First of all, and I'm not being flippant or glib about this.
Yes.
I have a lot of respect for the Amish community. This cabin I've mentioned to you before, we've got in Wagner, Oklahoma.
Yeah.
It's near Choteau and Noxie. Shout out to Choteau. Amish or Mennonite community there. I think an Amish community there, in fact. Yeah. And I've hung out with them a little bit, and it varies from community to community. But as I understand it, the Amish are a permission-based technological culture. So they'll bring in new technologies, but they'll only do it if they think the technology is going to benefit their relationship with God and their family. So they'll look at like an electric refrigerator and go, that doesn't seem to compromise anything. They'll look at a TV and go, not good. And that's great. I think that's wonderful. I think it's terrific that they live in that. And anybody that, like my friend Chris, wants to say, this has gone too far and I'm going to opt out of this, I think is terrific. I'm not saying everybody should have to use AI, but the benefits to it. Let's consider some of the opportunity costs here.
Yeah.
With the medical system, we have a system right now where doctors
interesting that the first thing out of your mouth was medical progress.
Yeah.
And the thing that you're coming to right now is medical progress. Like, yes, that is absolutely one of the benefits, one of the strongest cases for AI. The thing that even the smartest human beings collectively could never, parse out that data, that information, that knowledge for it, to throw AI at it. Yeah, I think that's a really good reason why AI should be developed. But man, whenever it comes to framing the knowledge and shaping the thought processes and like the propaganda and the worldviews and the things like, that's where I really take issue, because I think artificial intelligence is going to be more intelligence than it is wisdom. And I think wisdom is the thing that really makes people
Dear God, we've had this conversation. We did it in 2100 BC. We're like Socrates. It's either Socrates or Plato encountered the written word.
Right.
Somebody put it in front of him, and he's like,
"Dead people
don't like it." He was like,
"How dead people speak to you?
You can't talk to dead people. You can't ask them questions." On top of that, people will just read. They won't understand a thing, they'll just memorize it. It's horrible.
Yeah.
Like we've had this. Writing's good. This is a good thing. This is an advancement for society.
Right.
The medical advances are very big.
So
you cut me off. Can we say the medical advances real quick?
Please.
Okay, we have a system, particularly in our country, where people are very much incentivized to become specialists rather than generalists, and so there's all these siloed medical people, like Harvard Medical right now is just plugging data into things, going, we can't figure out what's wrong with this person, and the best minds can't figure it out. They put it into AI and it goes, oh, they've got this, and this.
Yeah.
That's great. And any delay we're having in AI until that time is an opportunity cost where people that are otherwise suffering can be taken out of that. That's a very important thing. And then I'd add to that, I don't think this is going to diminish human beings. I think this is going to help human beings flourish. So I mentioned having tutors on every phone for every kid in the world. I think that's great. All the kids that are not able to get time from their teachers because of the size of classrooms or budgetary constraints or whatever, they now have an inexhaustible, 5 years from now, inexhaustible tutor that can talk to them. Me being a content creator, when I make podcast art, I do not have the budget to hire an artist. I can go on DALL-E or on Midjourney and go, I would like bearded guy in suit holding hands with redhead on Mars. Bam! 5 seconds from now. That wasn't going to happen. I'm not putting anybody out of work, which is the other big thing that people have a problem with AI on. They think it's going to automate everything.
Yeah.
This was not going to happen. I am empowered to be more artistic.
I love you, Andrew. This very podcast, this is edited by AI. and it absolutely put people out of work.
Wait, hold on. Isn't that guy the one?
Nope.
Who are you? What are you doing?
No, not him. Not him. He's doing content that AI is not yet capable of editing. But yeah, it costs people jobs. Absolutely.
Okay. With automation in jobs.
Yeah.
When I say it's not putting people out of work, I mean net. When automobiles came around, they put buggy whip salesmen out of jobs.
Right.
This is true. Like there used to be whole armies of people that would. Like I think I've talked about knocker-uppers on this program, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, we're going to dust off. We're going to dust off the learn to code.
Yeah, the what?
Learn to code.
I think what we're going to say is that AI or automation technology creates more jobs than it destroys.
Yeah,
and it's a net benefit, and that is overall a good thing. So there are people.
Now, whether or not they're real jobs or bullshit jobs is another question entirely.
I mean,
so here, let's jump ahead. Because there are a few places I want to jump in there, but I want to jump ahead to like the big picture ripple effects, generational creep of people getting more and more comfortable. I see a future where AI is so profoundly helpful and so capable and so knowledgeable that the governments of the world say, why do we keep electing these assholes who keep lying to us and promising stuff and getting involved in these scandals? Let's just hook all of our systems and our resource management and, our diplomacy and, the educational system. Let's hook it up to AI. And all of a sudden we're beholden to this artificial entity, this being. I think it would be at that point. I think it would be so profoundly capable and so intelligent that you could call it a sentient being. And it's something that is not us, and to the extent that it is looking out for us, it's, well, who get to put the fucking hands on the keyboard?
I think we've already had this conversation. We did it in the 30s, 40s, and 50s.
So we're going back to like the Socrates and the tablets.
Why would we let a bunch of random people run an economy? They're mindless. Let's get the smartest people in our country as experts to run the economy, and and it didn't work. So I'm not worried about that. We've already had this one. Don't find okay, you're going to build an expert as opposed to recruit experts. Don't put them in charge of stuff. Make him an advisor.
Two things. The Socrates and the tablets, right? Well, that tablet never had the ability to tell you what to do with the rest of your life. It was like there was some transfer of information.
There's cults right now that can tell you how to do that. If you really want somebody else to tell you what to do with your life.
The tablet is not at a societal level informing how people should be living their lives generationally. Ripple effect down in the future is what we're talking about.
I don't want to take swings at the Roman Catholic Church, but there was a 1,000-year period where the Roman Catholic Church would tell you how to run your life. How is this different?
Okay. As a libertarian, would you take issue with AI being so influential, controlling the governments and the borders and the resources of the world, and telling you what to do, and if you did not comply? Because right now, I was like, well, I, Andrew Heaton, am very comfortable with the good American. People say, fuck you, I'm not going to do that. But generations from now, if you do not comply with what AI says you need to do to make this group of humanity in this part of the world be the most productive and peaceful, well, then now you don't get access to public transportation. You don't get access to your food. You don't get access to certain bits of entertainment. You can't go to certain places and meet certain people. That's the dystopian end game that I see with putting AI in place whenever it is taking into account by the numbers, how should people interact with each other, not what is the intrinsic value of the human spirit and freedom. It's by the fucking numbers. What is a goddamn algorithm going to tell us what we can and can't do generations from now? Because that's what I see as the end game. And right now, we'd be like, fuck you, you're not going to tell me what to do. But once we have ceded control generation after generation, that will happen. Andrew, you need to go to that place and do that thing. Well, I don't want to do that today. Okay, here's the permissions that you've lost today.
Yeah, so
if you don't comply tomorrow, you're going to lose more permissions.
While I only purport to be an independent, I'll own the libertarian card for our conversation.
Okay, yeah. You've said that multiple times. I apologize. But
it's okay. Yeah. I'll represent my libertarian cousins. My problem is with the authority of an external source ordering you around, not with who that source is. So if you've got a state that can order you around because Muhammad gave us permission to do it. Mm-hmm. My problem is the ordering around part and the size of that state in your life.
Yeah.
The inspiration behind it is of no concern to me compared to that. So like if you went, hey, good news, we got rid of AI. We now have a theocracy that tells you how to do all these things. I wouldn't go, great, it's people. My problem is the ordering around and the size of the state, the inspiration behind it. But hold on, can I give you something that does worry me a little bit that I think will happen? I do think what's going to happen, and this is going to be a bad thing that people are going to need to have willpower for, is I think in the next 10 to 15 years, during the same golden age period that I'm thinking of in terms of incredible medical advancement and tutors for all and art everywhere.
That's the sugar that makes this not medicine go down.
The bit that I do think will happen that is going to be of concern is I think you're going to have best friend apps. Those are going to develop where it's going to be a really cute cartoon character or something, and you'll be able to talk to it, and you're going to see kids that have relationships entirely with imaginary characters on their phone. Yeah. And I could see that atrophying interpersonal relationships and development as people.
Well, in between now and then, you said it would take some self-discipline and willpower. And I think right now we're in this moment where we have willpower and self-discipline being exhausted by things. This is going back to our first conversation about would you delete the internet if you had a button? These things that are aimed at the most vulnerable parts of our brain that are just giving us that little dopamine trip of satisfaction, and all of a sudden we're addicted to porn and we can't look away from a screen, and we got to get that achievement on the video game, and we're not actually getting out there and living a life. And again, I always feel weird being on this side of the table in these conversations, because I am very much aware, like, if not for technology and, you know, content creation and the dopamine and all that stuff, I wouldn't have a career. Like, I wouldn't be sitting here in front of cameras. So taking the more Luddite-esque position on these things is like, I understand the irony, but also I don't give a crap about you or me. And I think my kids will probably be fine, but I think my grandkids, if AI goes in the direction that I can't help but see it going down this direction, that's how technology, it forms, it consolidates, it concentrates power and influence. That's where I see it ending up. And a few generations from now, it's like, holy shit, Andrew, we're talking about, you know, willpower with the best friend back in the day, and now you can't leave your fucking house because you don't have permission, because you didn't do you didn't contribute that ration at the right time and the right day. Just the level of mathematical spreadsheet just...
I mean, I think now you're just talking about authoritarianism. And
that's where I think it goes.
I don't disagree with you.
That's where I think it goes. This is the end game that right now we're kind of dancing around the current things of would you push the button now? And I'm saying I would push it now because I'm not afraid of like the next 5, 10, 15, maybe even 20 years. But I think once you've let the genie out of the bottle, there's no putting it back in the bottle. And I think authoritarian, it's inevitable. That's where we're going.
I disagree with the inevitable track. And I think authoritarianism can arise in any culture, in any situation.
But I know how to fight humans. But I don't know how to fight Skynet.
With the epistemological monopoly of like this small coterie of people in San Francisco, noting that they will probably develop multiple AIs that you'll be able to select between.
But I do think over time they will consolidate into one.
Okay, so there's one consolidated AI. I mean, like, epistemologically, I don't see how that's different than like the Catholic Church burning people that have an inappropriate opinion in the Middle Ages.
I agree. It's just as bad. Right. Push the button.
Right. So no, what I'm saying is though, like the problem is the compulsory element. The problem is the authoritarianism. The problem is not just good computing power. Like that's like we're just talking about like we've got a little lever, and we're like, that's all right. And then I build a really big lever, and you're like, no, that lever, no, it's too big. Authoritarianism, and I'm like, no, it's who's running the lever.
But I see this as a creation of man. It can only have the fingerprints of man. So you're talking about authoritarianism and all the bad things. Like, how is that not going to show up in AI? It is of us. It's not going to have a soul or a spirit. It's going to be going through algorithmically what is this product going to deliver in terms of power and influence to its creators. But it's like, just because it's impressive computing power, I still think it's going to have, just based on its nature, it's going to have the corrupt elements of mankind that are unstoppable once you let it infiltrate all the areas of its life that AI promises to, yes, improve for now, but down the road it will control, and it gives no fucks whether or not you are living a happy, satisfied, content life with your relationship.
Well, we disagree on the inevitability of control, the idea that but putting a pin in that for a moment, help me. Part of the reason that I'm very dismissive of doomerism on AI is that I look back on any new technology, it always induces a moral panic. The bicycle, I think we brought up novels before. When novels came out, kids are going to be fabulous. They'll have their head in the book. Like the novels were. So I like elevators. Every new technology comes out. teddy bears. At one point, they were going to ban teddy bears because it was emasculating to males. They was going to make them effeminate.
Yeah.
How is this qualitatively different? Because I don't see it. I just see a bigger computer. So I don't see this as qualitatively different. Make the case to me how this is different than every other single technological innovation in history that's immediately had a moral panic ensue.
I think the attack on willpower and concentration, framed as something that will help you be more comfortable. All of those things are true. And to the extent that you cede control to this thing that will make your life more comfortable for now, downstream, generations from now, I'm thinking maybe my grandkids-ish, if not sooner, then we will find ourselves in a place where we forgot what it means to be a free, independent creature that could make your own decisions and not be like, oh, what am I supposed to do today? What's my itinerary? How do I not get in trouble by this fucking computer?
So the way I'm looking at this,
because the technology issues is like, well, there's bicycles and there's, you know, all these other things that have been like demonized. So like, those things were aimed at the most vulnerable parts of our brains. Like we have not evolved at the pace of technology. That we're not prepared. We're not equipped for the things that are being thrown at us that are just it's fucking sugar, man. It's so. You want to see the hottest woman naked doing all of the things? Yup. You want to be like a fucking hero just dominating the landscape with the biggest gun? Okay. You want to watch like the most compelling story ever told that'll take you to the highest highs and lowest lows? Yep. Our brains aren't ready for that shit. And
again, I have more faith in you. So like right now, dumb phones are on the rise. Do you know this?
Yeah, the light phone, absolutely.
But no one's.
Brianna's going to get.
We're not creating dumb phones by outlawing smartphones. We're doing it by people adapting and going, you know what? I'm spending too much time on my smartphone. I'm going to make a decision that I'm going to set this tool aside and I'm going to get a tool that better suits my needs. Like I take great optimism in that.
Right.
That as we become more technological, people eventually take a deep breath and go, I have ceded too much control. Like the way I'm looking at this.
Here's the moment. The moment where I will be like, you know what? I want to take some of that Andrew Heaton optimism because I want to be optimistic, dude. I so want to be optimistic. My nature is to be fucking optimistic. I want to see the light phone take even 1% of market share from Apple. The day that happens, it's like, okay, yeah, I think community, they're the plucky little creatures that we are. We can say, you know, this isn't good for me. I'm going to do this, and I'm not going to make a decision.
Very much willing to make this bet. So what does this look like? So we got like Android phones, and this is phones in general?
Yeah, the iPhone, Android. If the light phone, if the dumb phones, let's call them.
Dumb phones.
If the dumb phones take 1% of the market share of the phones that are just giving that sweet, sweet dopamine drip. Yeah, man. Okay. I see a glimmer. I see a light at the end of the tunnel.
I want to make a bet now. Like,
okay.
We say like 3 years from now, I think it will.
3 years. 3 years, 1% dumb phone market share.
Yeah.
I so hope you're right, man.
And $100?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
$100.
At the end of 3 years. Okay, so one more thing in terms of how I'm looking at this.
Yeah.
Some study came out years ago that the average American has, in effect, 80 servants working for him in the year 1800. You think about, like, if we lived in the year 1800, for me to get to where we're at right now, it's, 30 miles from where I live, would have required having a carriage and multiple horses, people to tend the horses, somebody to drive the carriage.
Okay, so question about this, because I think it was Thomas Sowell. He was explaining, he was going like, in the 1800s, there's this idea that, well, if you were white and American, you had slaves and you had a plantation. It's like, it was...
I think it was still pretty few people. But
yeah, it was like the 1%ers of the day. They're the people.
I don't think all white people owned slaves. Yeah,
it was literally the 1%ers of that era.
Yeah,
they had slaves, but the 99%, even if you're white, you're probably working in a field somewhere. You don't have slaves and servants and people doing all these things for you. So this 80 servants in the average American, where is this coming from?
If you add up, so like right now, when I was driving here, like that's like 10 servants right there that would have otherwise had to, like, let's use Louis the 16th as a benchmark here. I would have had to have 10 people maintaining my stable, my horses, my carriage. I came over.
Again, it was the 1% that had that.
Right. Yeah. And technology has allowed everybody to have that lifestyle of the 1%, minus the evils perpetrated by slavery.
We're not to belabor the issue. It wasn't the average American.
No.
It was the 1%.
No. What I'm saying specifically is that technology has allowed everybody now to have a better quality of life than the richest person 100 years ago.
Absolutely.
Like Rockefeller has a worse life than me. He's got
quality and mean creature comforts. Yeah.
Yes, in terms of positional goods and status, Rockefeller has.
If you're talking about relational, connective friends and family.
In terms of material wealth and comfort, everybody today has pretty much has them beat, right? And you one way of quantifying that would be how many servants to maintain your lifestyle today would you have needed to have 100 years ago, 200 years ago. And what I'm seeing with AI is right now we all get to have 10 people that are running our stagecoach for us. We all get to have 5 cooks because we've got an oven and we've got a microwave and we've got a refrigerator. That would have required an ice box, all these things. Every person watching this basically has 80 people working for them from 100 years ago. Now what's happening is AI is going, you also get to have a team of artists and you get to have your own personal think tank. And the personal assistants that all the rich people currently have is about to be democratized, where everybody gets their own personal assistant. Now, right now, I don't have a personal assistant, but if I were a rich guy with a personal assistant and he came and gave me advice, I could go, I'm not buying that advice. I don't have to do what my personal assistant wants. What AI is going to do is democratize that, where now we all get to have our own PA. That's great. That means that everybody's going to have a better life.
So I don't think we disagree about the right now. Where I'm still questioning where we're at is a few generations from now. Where do you think AI is? And are you still optimistic? Do you not see it being that incremental step? Because look at the Revolutionary War. Why Americans even showed up here in the first place. It was like a bunch of assholes telling me what to do, right? So right now, that is the furthest thing from the truth. The American spirit is not, you can't tell me what to do. We're going to argue about it. We'll peck on a keyboard, but very few of us are going to go out and actually do something, at least something that's going to have a meaningful impact. Just talking about systematic structural change. We may burn some things down and hold some picket signs and make some shitty videos. But not really making a big difference. We're not traveling an ocean and half my family dies from scurvy or malaria or something. The skin in the game that we're used to right now isn't at all what it was back in the 1700s whenever we came to this country.
So this is what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
Cake is fine right now, but 100 years from now, the cake will be so delicious, you will be unable to eat this cake. And maybe a handful of people will be able to not eat the cake. But I'll tell you this, a lot of people are going to be making money off this cake. So far, I'm just hearing the cake is so good, you want to eat the cake, but you don't have to if you don't want to. I would love to have the better cake.
Keep
making better cake, Rex.
Taking your analogy, what I'm saying is the cake right now is delicious. And in 100 years, that cake will be delicious, but there will only be cake, and you could only eat cake. And what happens to you if your diet is only cake?
I think 100 years from now, you're going to find so many more people that get to do whatever they want, because the drudgery has been removed from the workforce and enabled people to pursue creative things and humanity, that we're going to look back in the period we're living in with the same chagrin that we look back on the Industrial Revolution when kids were working in coal mines. I think we're living in the bad time, and the good times are to come.
I would love for that to be the case, but they said the exact same thing whenever the internet first happened. It's like, oh man, all of this free time. Right now we have to write a letter and you have to dictate it and somebody has to listen. And all of these things that were promised to be advancements, time saving with technology. No, the people that have jobs, they still have jobs. They're just expected to do more with the tools. So you don't have a girl at a typewriter who is taking dictation and she rattles off 5 letters a day and then takes them to the post office. Now you have somebody that, does 15 emails a day, and they're in meetings and they're in Zoom calls and they're interacting with customers. This doesn't free up time. That's not how the market works. You still have to cram in all as much productivity as you can in that time. I would love for it to be employers you know what? We're making plenty of money. We're being so efficient. Yeah, I know you're getting paid, you're getting a salary, but just take the day off. I am already wealthy enough. I'm rich enough. They're going to make them be as productive as they possibly can within the hours of time that they have for them. It's no, that's not going to happen. All of this free time, that was the promise of the internet. That didn't happen. How much more are people expected to do for a quality of life that is, for the first time in the history of our country, slipping now, like the promise of America was your sons and your daughters will always be doing better than you. Yeah. Now, this is the first time where our sons and daughters will not do better than us.
So I'm going to take umbrage with this as well. Yeah, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I'm planning to do an episode on now versus the 1950s.
Yeah.
And so far, every economic metric I've found, we're doing better than in the 1950s. Yeah. The median home ownership is higher now than in the 1950s. The amount of money you're paying out of your paycheck's lower than you were paying for a house in the 1950s. The difference in the 1950s was that it was a less unequal society.
Yes,
that is true. Yeah. We're coming off of the dying embers of the New Deal wage suppression regime that existed during that era. So the gap between rich and poor is less. Everybody's poorer than they are right now, but the gap is less. And so you're looking around and you're going, well, all my neighbors are in the same boat, so I guess I'm doing okay.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean people were doing better. It just means that they thought they were doing better because the comparison seemed more favorable.
Yeah.
And then the other bit is you had this hyper regionalized informational landscape where I am reading the Daily Oklahoman and it might bring up something about Nixon, but probably it's going to talk about what occurred down the street. And so if something bad happens in Oklahoma, we'll hear about it. Something bad happens in Gaza, we're not going to hear about it. Now we have national media, so if anything bad happens anywhere in the world, it's all we hear about.
And so we're
inundated with, I think, false information about the world being worse. Like with,
I agree with that, absolutely. Yeah, I'm not taking issue with that.
Yeah,
I am taking issue with with the statement you said about we're going to have so much technology, we're going to have all this free time, we're not going to know what to do with it. Man, I've heard that song and dance before. They were saying this back in the
in
the early 90s.
Right now,
well, all of the things, and you're just going to you're going to get your job done so much more quickly.
So you and I are drinking. We're working right now. This is work. This is work time.
Yeah.
We are drinking whiskey on camera, talking about bullshit. Like if my great grandparents Joseph Tecumseh Heaton could be summoned from the grave out in western Oklahoma, where he was like raking the soil with his hands, was skeletal and died at like 62 from gout, and I went, oh, in the future I have to sit in an air-conditioned box with my friend to discuss things. Yes, I'm working 40 hours a week. The 40 hours I'm working are so much better than before that technology existed, where I was scratching the surface to avoid starvation and breaking my back.
One question. Do we have normal average jobs?
We don't have normal average jobs.
So the exceptions does not prove the rule here.
Okay. People watching at home, people watching at work right now,
yes.
who are actively at work.
You're very productive,
and you're doing this. And like, by the way,
not at all pissing away the afternoon.
Good for you. Hanging out on YouTube is the same thing as a smoke break from 30 years ago. I'm not judging you.
It kind of is, yeah.
Your great grandparents. If you could talk to your great grandparents, and you went, I have to take a magical horseless carriage to an air-conditioned room with electricity instead of fallow, fat candles, and I have to push numbers around in a spreadsheet, they would be like, what monkey's paw bargain with Satan did our family make to allow you this level of comfort?
It's interesting how
that's technology.
It's interesting how often our conversation comes down to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Because if you also said, and by the way, and this is not necessarily you on your lunch break, but by the way, a lot of people with these same creature comforts, they have the refrigerator and a giant magic screen that can tell these most amazing stories, but they are depressed and they are 100 pounds overweight and they are disconnected and they don't feel like they're contributing in a meaningful way and they're struggling to find a point to get up in the morning. I don't think your grandparents had that issue. I think it was
They certainly didn't during World War II when they were getting bombed by the Germans, but I don't want to have the Germans bomb us every year to cure psychological problems.
The theme that I see in our conversations is you very much are a champion of the development of creature comforts. You see that as being like, this makes it all worthwhile. It's like, man, that's nice. But I see something from my perspective, I think that there's a deeper issue at play that you can't just gloss over with pointing at creature comforts and niceties that are good distractions. But holy hell, man, if we're talking about the qualitative experience of what it means to be a human being on this planet, shit, we got a lot of things that we have to struggle through that we have not evolved abilities to struggle through very well. And to the extent that we keep ceding power and control to corporations and companies that are creating these products that are aimed at our most vulnerable parts, then I'm very, very concerned. I think that's my point.
I don't disagree with you.
Yeah.
I think that there is more to life than creature comforts. I will say those quote unquote creature comforts are very, very important if you're at the bottom.
Yes.
For people that are in true poverty, I think it's very, very meaningful.
No, but again, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's a thing.
For people in the middle, I don't disagree. I think there's probably a huge number of people in our country and around the world that are middle class and comfortable, who are very sad compared to people in other countries that are poorer than them. I don't disagree with any of that. That being said, though, like with my family, like Western Oklahoma farmers on some acreage out in the middle of nowhere where they only see 3 people every 3 months, like I don't know that they were having a great time. Like maybe they were, but I have no way of knowing that. Unfortunately, I can't speak to them.
Before we started recording, you and I had just a little, very brief side chat.
Yeah.
And you have family, like younger people, and you're asking them about their phone.
The urban Heatons have not bred. The rural Heatons remain the seat of power for the greater Heaton family. The castles in Alva, Oklahoma, and the city dandies are dying off.
So you're asking me, you were comparing notes a little bit. It was like, look, I have these young teenage family members, and I was asking about their phone and whether or not they're on social media. I was like, I look at it every once in a while. I was like, no, I'm not spending too much. They're clearly not addicted to it.
No.
And you're saying, is this a thing that you're also seeing?
Yeah.
And it's like, man, like I see young people that can't set the damn thing down without starting to twitch, and they have to check that notification. And I think we had to start recording before we could finish the conversation, but I was asking you, like, what's the living situation? Are they really close to the friends that they're in? I was like, no, I mean, it's a big ranch.
Out there, yeah.
It's like, oh, they have things that they can do, though. There's activities, there's work to be done.
Always stuff to do on a farm.
Always stuff to do.
Yeah.
And I think one of the biggest issues is the suburbanization of most of the people that live in this country. I was thinking about my own kids. I'm on an acre, and it's in a neighborhood, and you can't do the kinds of things you could do in a ranch. You're going to have like the Karen down the road. You have the HOA. Like, you're very, very limited. You can throw a ball in the front yard without somebody taking issue. But beyond that, like the kind of rambunctious nonsense, like the ridiculous shit that kids would get into back whenever there was nobody watching. I think that's that healthy sense of adventure. I think that's the thing that keeps them out of their phones. But to the extent that we've locked down, hell, the pandemic did not help with this. The fact that we've locked down bundles of energy and creativity inside walls and put a screen of just tits and ass and winning and games and perfectly told stories and the most magnetic personalities in front of their faces.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
And by the way,
you have
all of those things you just mentioned. I'm providing all of those.
But I think the ranch is kind of a big part of it, dude. But anyways, we didn't get to finish the conversation. But I think it's kind of what you're speaking to here.
I think so to bring this back, we just we're recording this right after Thanksgiving, and I was hanging out with a family, and they're all out in Woods County, Oklahoma, and they're all FFA kid or Future Farmers of America kids, and all of the cousins are farmers or ranchers or married to farmers and ranchers, and there's some educators as well. But it's a rural community. And when I talk to the little kids, I'm very curious to talk to them because I read all these reports about how addicted kids are.
How little do you mean, by the way?
Ages range from 6 to 17.
Okay.
Again, they've been busy breeding. Every time I show up, and now they're hitting puberty. It's very confusing.
Yeah.
Like my cousin Jance was there, and I was like, he came, his second cousin or first cousin, I can't remember. He's my cousin's kid. I came in and I was like, I think that's my cousin. It might be an intern. I can't because he shot up like 2.5 feet since I saw him. But I'd talk to the kids, and I'd be like, "Do you have a phone?" And I can't remember that. Like when they hit 15 or 16, their parents let them get a phone. And I was like, "Do you use it a lot?" A little bit. And I was like, are you on social media? And they were like, "Yeah, sometimes."
Yeah.
Do you socialize with your friends in person or on the phone? Why would I talk to my friends on the phone when I can hang out? I'm like, kid, you're preaching to the choir. I'm in agreement with all of these things. But I guess where we do differ a bit is I don't think you create a good option by outlawing a bad option. I don't think that the eliminating a thing automatically creates the good thing. So I look at the situation that they've got. I see the technology as being very positive for them. My Uncle Dan, who is a farmer and drives a tractor, can now put his tractor on autopilot.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever driven a tractor before.
Yeah.
It can be very tedious. And he can now do that and read a book. And basically he just has to make sure it doesn't go crazy and go on the highway. And so his day's way better. That technology has not detracted from his family. It's not detracted from his social life. It's made it good. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Tractor's good.
So what I'm thinking is for the people for the many people that feel alienated and lonely, and this is something near and dear to my heart. I think we have designed a society that is alienated and lonely. Yeah. I think that the way to do that is not to try to ban tools, but to build new societies.
Okay, so I would agree that ideally, this is a very binary decision here. Ideally, the choice isn't like all or nothing. I think the ideal thing that we could probably both agree on is there a way where we can have the healthy amount of the thing, a healthy amount of AI without the healthy amount of, social media and, sticky, really compelling content? Is there a way to have a dose, which is what I hear you describing, but it's not taking over their life. It's not the best thing in their world. And I think that's the issue. For a lot of people, this is the best thing in their life. And man, to put that down and say, you know what, I'm going to just stick my hand in that blender and try and make my situation better. Not very few people have that kind of self-discipline, that willpower, that grit. It's like, I just need to be okay today. I need to be okay this evening. I fucking hate my job. I'm fighting with my family. I was like, I'm overweight. I'm sad. Like, I think if there is a way to, again, push a button and all of a sudden this relationship you have with social media, there's this amount of influence that AI wants to bring to you. It's just the right amount. Well, would you push that button?
Sure.
Okay, I would push that button
if
too.
I can push the button and everybody has an internal shift towards the right amount of sugar, social media, and porn, yes, I would hit that
the
button.
Perfect balance of those things. But that's not the question, which is going to be the most interesting for us to talk about, because that's how you get dopamine-driven conversations.
So can we do one more gotcha question each?
Yeah.
And then you push the goddamn button. All right.
I really like this conversation.
Two-parter for you. Yeah. When do you think that this truly gets problematic? Like when we're at the oh shit moment, as opposed to the ominous could be problematic moment. Like how many years in the future do you think that is?
Whenever AI makes policy. Whenever AI makes government policy. Whenever AI makes law.
30 years plus, 50 years plus?
I think 25 at the earliest. I think it probably won't be longer than 50 years.
Let's go with 25.
Okay.
Over the next 25 years,
do
you acknowledge that there are people that will otherwise die unless AI is put in charge of their medical problems?
Yeah.
And you're willing to go, listen, I'm willing to let you die over the next 25 years because I think this could get kind of squirrely and turn Orwellian.
It's interesting how often our conversations come back to the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the one.
Hey, I'm a utilitarian, buddy. I'm a big picture consequentialist dude.
So the question then becomes, AI, unregulated, unfettered, making policy, making laws, with the corrupt fingerprints of man ingrained into this sentience, will more people suffer generations from now than people that will die in that short term?
For the record, the absence of pushing the button does not necessitate that there are no regulations on AI, nor that there are any laws governing AI.
Do you think, really quick, a quick aside, do you think really, if there's laws and regulations with AI, every government in the world is going to be developing AI outside of those laws and regulations?
I think, practically speaking, there's going to be AI developed either in America, maybe Europe, or in China, and you can kind of take your pick on that. This goes back to if we're going to be parabolic here, back to the downwinger, upwinger thing.
Yeah.
Upwingers are concerned with, downwingers want to minimize bad things. Upwingers want to maximize good things. So I am more worried about opportunity cost than I am a bad thing happening, whereas I think a lot of other people are like, let's mitigate the damage. As a result, I tend to be, let's develop the thing and let's have the regulation come on the back end. Like, let's do the thing and then go, oh, we need regulation, as opposed to having a step-by-step permission-based
I don't know if
society.
you can take pee out of a pool.
Well put.
Okay.
You are terminated.
Andrew Heaton, where can people find more of you?
You can find me on the Political Orphanage. And pertinent episodes to this would be the one that Rex and I talked about, the internet. Yeah. By the time this comes out, almost certainly, there will be an episode out with my friend Chris Moody on life without the internet, which he's voluntarily divested himself of, he and his wife. and the aforementioned upwinger, downwinger dichotomy. So that's on the political orphanage.
Awesome.
Hey, Rex, do you want to pitch anything? I feel like you've got other things.
I'm fine.
Okay.